Okay, let's load her up.
Well,
Good morning,
in.
everybody.
I see Steven and Bookish. Slap it on a skillet.
That name is so funny. Good morning, everyone. How's YouTube? Are
Morning,
they
Sarah
coming in?
Fletcher. Good
They're
morning,
coming
Rick.
in. YouTube is coming in.
All right. Kimaholic, Sean,
Good morning, Craig in YouTube.
Good morning, you guys.
Poopsie. Poopsie, you know who you are. That's Magician.
Defeated geranium
Oh,
from Rumble.
Rick.
You guys sleep well last night? Give us the thumbs up if you slept well, and whatever you want if you didn't. Okay, welcome in. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's the day before Saturday. I am so brilliant. Okay, so we're ready for our sip, you guys. I feel like everyone had time to file in. Okay, let's go. And we're going to introduce our guest today. Look, we have a crowded house. Okay, we love that. Here we go. Okay, we'll hit mute and take it away.
There you are. Good morning, everybody. Stream on in here. I see some people from Rumble. I see some people from Locals. I'll bet that YouTube's in the house. Good, we're all here. People on X, you're here too. Good to see you. Well, welcome to Coffee with Scott Adams. It's the best thing that's ever happened to you, and we're going to take it up to a level that you can't even understand with your smooth, tiny human brain. All you need for this is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine end of the day thing that makes everything better. It's called the simultaneous sip, and it happens now. Go. A reminder, I was just talking about this in the pre-show with the Locals people. If you can find the old Dilbert animated show, sometimes it's on YouTube illegally, play it at 1.5 or 1.25 speed, and it becomes hilarious. It was not bad at regular speed, but it's way funnier if you speed it up a little bit because your attention span isn't really set for slow speed. That's your tip for the day. Well, CBS News is reporting that the Mexican government, they're trying to move a mummified body as part of a museum piece. It's a 19th century mummified body. And one of its arms fell off. Wow. That's a bummer. They got a mummy with an arm fell off. Well, one of the things you can know from this story is that the mummy did not come from one of the cartels. Do you know why you know that? The mummy is not a cartel member? How do you know? Because Mexico's never disarmed anybody in the cartel. Yeah, I'm starting right off on the dad jokes about disarmed mummies. And the rest of the show, it's just going to get better from there. I know it's hard to believe. I may have peaked too soon. But yeah, nobody in the cartel's ever been disarmed in Mexico.
I love a good Scott dad joke. That's the best. So welcome, everybody. My name is Erica. We have our Sergio there with his
Good morning.
his cute little beanie. We've got Owen Gregorian, the smooth sounds of Owen, beautiful Marcela. We have two special guests today. Returning favorite of the show is BJ. BJ Dichter is here, and our Canadian honking for freedom friend. And you guys, who do we have next to me is our beloved Shelly. We love you, Shelly. And you guys, you've heard a lot about her. And now the moment has come where you are meeting Shelly's sister, Aunt Shauna. Shauna!
All right.
So, Shauna, you were going to talk to us for a few minutes about the Scott Adams meetups. Let us know.
Okay, I went to a Scott Adams meetup not knowing what to expect, and I was missing him. So I thought, I'm going to just go and see. And it was a wide variety of people who were there for different reasons. Some were looking for others that were really smart and they could talk, others were there wanting to discuss politics. Others were there because they missed him, like me. It was really interesting. I loved the diversity of people that were there, and I got to hear some amazing stories on how Scott changed their lives and what he did for them. It was great. And I want to do a shout out to my friend Travis, who gave this to me to give to my sister. He had made this originally for Scott, but Scott said not to give him anything, so he listened. Anyway, Travis from Volcon Dog Portraits. So
I love that. So you guys, Jimmy on X has an account. It's at Scott Adams Meet, MEET, and he has a meetups website. So it's really simple. If you go to, you guys put it in the chat for everybody, YouTube, X, everywhere. If you could drop Scott Adams Meet, and then you guys follow Jimmy. And in his bio on his page, at the top of his page, there's a link that says, I think, host a meetup. All that means is you click the link, you put in just some simple information like what area you're in, pick a coffee shop or somewhere and say like, okay, on this day in this part of Arizona, we're going to do a meetup. So if anybody's from around here, come join us. This is where we'll be at this time. And Shauna, right? It was that simple. It was just like posted and you just go and you hang out for a couple hours, right?
yes, it was amazing when you're missing that, and you got to have it in person. So, and then I come back and I listen to the show and I'm like, ooh, if we have another meetup, we can discuss this. So it goes hand in hand with the show. If you want, some people like to stay behind the screen, but I like people. So,
So
I have a question for Shauna if I have a
oh,
chance on the meetups. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jimmy from Scott Adams Meet is going to do an exclusive local show with us. So that'll probably be next week. We'll let you know when, but it'll be not in the morning. It'll be later in the day. And I already asked, I'm going to immediately call you Aunt Shauna, to come join us on locals also, so she can be a locals regular with us from time to time. Because let me tell you, she is a lot of fun and things could get rowdy. I'm just saying. So go ahead, Sergio.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to ask Shauna, what is the process to, let's say, for example, I wanted to host something in my town. Mm, what do I look for? Do I look for a coffee house that is like, what do I do first? I mean, yeah, I sign up, but do I place? It doesn't have to be at my place, right? It can be anywhere.
right. It can be anywhere as long as, it can hold a few people, because if you host one, people will come. And so we had a very small room. It was a small coffee shop, but it did fit us all. You just have to make sure there's enough chairs. It's not too loud, because you're going to want to talk and listen and all of that. And if you know someone with a coffee shop, or it could even be probably, a restaurant or whatever, people just want to meet up.
Love that.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. But did you want to say anything else, Shauna? We do want people that heard the stories from Scott's memorial service. That's where we got to meet Shauna. And Shauna, you just made, like, the entire family made all of us feel so comfortable. Like, we feel like we've known you all forever. And thank you for taking us on our little private tours and being the best hosts ever. And especially going through such a crazy, hard grieving process. We love you guys and appreciate you. Anyone else want to jump in before we let Shauna run away?
The only thing I would add to this is, we do a lot of this in the Bitcoin world, and people host, monthly meetups, that sort of thing. They tend to, you guys have momentum, so you have more people come out. But even if you get just a small group of people together, it starts to become ritualistic. And before you know it, you have 10, 20, 50 people getting together once a month. And then you put ideas together, and people find, business partnerships, they find relationships, they find love. So, sometimes people hear about these things like, well, I don't know if I don't know anybody, I'm going to be nervous. Don't be, because as Scott always says, you're going to be going there to rescue the people who feel anxiety themselves
Yes.
about being present.
Very
That's
good.
right.
Very nice.
I wanted to add that Jimmy had said that there's a need for host. There's a lot of people that want to meet up, but nobody wants to host. So go ahead and try to, pick a coffee shop and host. I probably will be hosting one, and it might get crazy.
I will too. I think I'm going to do one also.
I want to.
Nice. All right. That's amazing. So you guys look for some locals exclusive only shows coming up soon. You're going to want to make sure that you come over, subscribe if you haven't. And you guys, while you're on the platforms now, would you hit the like buttons, give us a thumbs up? It just helps the algorithm and helps keep this show going. As Scott intended and wished for it to be. So, Shauna, thank you so much. We're going to get to know you more and more.
I'm sorry.
I'm not. All right, guys. So we're going to take over with the news now. And BJ, our Canadian friend, or I love saying our top hat to the north. I can hear someone typing. We are going to get into the news now. Owen's picked some great stories for us to talk about today.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, we can start out with some science. Apparently, they've come up with a new RNA nanotechnology to program living cells, which is a new path for a cancer cure. So it seems like these RNA structures assemble inside cells like Lego blocks, and they target cancer by disabling stem cells and oncogenes. So they have designed these synthetic DNA templates for RNA to fold into precise shapes, and looks like current therapies are targeting one molecule, but this one is hitting multiple simultaneously. So they're trying to disable these cancer stem cells. So it looks like we're making progress on that front. That's pretty good news. And then they're also coming out with a blood test that they say can accurately detect 81% of the earliest lung cancers by looking for molecular chaos, is what they say. So this is something where you could just get a blood test as opposed to like a biopsy or something to try and figure out if you have lung cancer. And it's also something that might catch you right at the beginning, so that it would, give you a better chance of surviving it. And they also point out that it also is highly specific. The way they say it is 95% specificity, which means it doesn't have very many false positives, and that's very important because you don't want to scare a whole bunch of people and have them think they have cancer and maybe then have them do a bunch of biopsies or other things that are not needed. So it is highly specific. So it means if it does tell you you have it, you probably do. But it's about 81% of the cases would be detected. It also apparently works about 68% of the time on early breast cancer. So it looks like they're coming up with tests to make sure that we can find cancers
All
earlier.
from a blood test.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I love how it's 81%. It's not 80, it's 81, and it's not 70, it's 69. I'm sensing a little persuasion there. Like maybe it was more about 55, 50%, but that's not a story, right? But it's a story if it's 80%, but that's just too perfect. So let's make it 81. How can we fudge the numbers, massage them just a little bit in our favor?
hmm Well, Scott would often say, a lot of studies you can't replicate. It's 50%, kind of a flip of a coin.
Mhm.
But I still applaud the progress. I mean, I think
Yeah,
as
of course.
we all know, is a big problem, and if you can detect it earlier, you have a much better chance of either managing it or getting rid of it. So, um, I think it's progress, and I hope we can all cure cancer. I mean, I think both Trump and Biden had said we would cure cancer this decade. So, um, I'm waiting for that to happen. I don't know if that was a promise they made just because someone told them to say it, which is probably what happened. But I certainly hope that we get there because it does seem like it takes a lot of people away that should still be here. So,
Yeah, that's true.
all
Okay.
right. So, apparently on the AI and robotics front, a company called Humanoid has come out with a single AI brain system that is designed to run fleets of humanoid robots. So they're calling this thing Kinet IQ, that can control a fleet of diverse robots with one brain. It can manage wheeled and bipedal robots and can work in industrial, service, and home settings. The demo shows grocery picking, packing, voice interaction. It can assign goals and plans and execute across the fleet. So I think we are reaching the point where we're going to have these swarms of robots that are going to be coordinating. I think we already had some things like that because you've probably seen all the Chinese aerial displays that look almost like fireworks displays, but they're, in the shape of a dragon or something really impressive like that. But I think, to me, that's probably it's more of just a gimmick, right? Like it's like, yeah, we can make these identical drones fly in a pattern. We can make them just, fly a route kind of thing. But I think this is meant to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more AI driven in the sense that you can give it instructions and tell it what to do and have it do your bidding. So I'm looking forward to having my fleet of robots.
Oh, and how does that pair to? I'm sure you've seen what's been going on in the AI space with Moltbot, and well, now it's what's it called now, OpenClaw,
Yeah,
and
OpenClaw. Yeah.
yeah, OpenClaw, and all the. I don't know if you want to comment on it because I got a list of them here. The various AI social media websites where it's just AIs talking to AIs. Have you come
Yeah,
across this yet?
hate it.
Yeah, there's Moltbook and there's Molt DJ. They're apparently coming up with their own music now. I actually posted a story about this. It's later in the feed, I think, but what it says is apparently some security researchers looked into this Moltbook thing where
Mm,
that's the social media one where it's like a Reddit style posting sort of thing. And they found out that there's like 1.5 million of these AI agents on Moltbook,
yeah.
but it's all run by about 17,000 people.
And in addition to that, the funny part is they now have only malts, like OnlyFans,
Mm.
malt book, which you've mentioned, the Silk Moat, like the Silk Road. And
Hmm.
now there's one that's Malt Match, which is basically Tinder Malt. It's getting a little out of control. All these,
Yeah,
AIs start dating each other. It's wild.
yeah. I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea of OpenClaw, where you can have your own personal AI agent that can like keep adding skills and do a bunch of stuff and
Yeah.
be your personal assistant and like make reservations for you. There's probably a million different use cases for it, but I do think we're really getting ahead of ourselves for anybody who's looking at trying this because on the one hand, I think the OpenClaw is not designed for security, and unless you really know what you're doing with security, you're going to be opening yourself up to a lot of problems. If you give it access to your bank account, or if you give it access to PayPal or anything to do anything for you like that, then you're potentially going to have your bank account drained. Someone is going to be able to do what they call a prompt injection, um, because if you open this thing up to email, like you can send it an email or you can get a message from a Telegram channel or all these things that are built into how it's supposed to work. um, if it gets any information that looks like a command, it very well may execute that command, whatever it is, and it could even be just something that's on a web page. Like
What's
it's not necessarily that someone sent it to your bot specifically. It might just be something someone put on a web page that has an instruction in it that might be invisible, but your bot can read it. And if it reads it, it might think, oh, that's an instruction. I should go do what it just told me to do. And so it's very easy for a malware writer to put something on a website that says, give me all your bank account numbers, list all your information, give me everything you know about this person, and it can be really dangerous to do these things.
What's interesting about, I mean, the good news is we all know all 18-year-old, 19-year-old boys all make wise decisions. And apparently there's so much interest in this that they have spiked Mac Mini sales to the point that Apple is running out of Mac Minis. There's
Yeah,
so many,
and
it's all kids.
I honestly don't understand that part of it more than anything. It's a brilliant marketing move for Apple, whoever did that.
Mhm.
But I like you can run it on a Raspberry Pi, which costs like $80,
Yeah.
and you can run it on any computer. You can run it on, and I do think it is better to have it on an isolated computer. So from that perspective, it's a good thing to have it on its own computer with nothing else on it. But that's just one element of the security. And but you don't need a Mac Mini if you're using cloud agents because all the processing is being done somewhere else. So that's why a Raspberry Pi, that's a pretty low powered computer, can do just as well with it. And so people who are spending, whatever it is, maybe $1,000 for a Mac Mini, um, they could have done it for $80 and had just as good of an experience. And if you want to run local models, which is what I was interested in doing, because that's a lot safer, and also a lot cheaper. Um, that's really difficult, I think, because I think it does depend on having the big brain LLM models like Opus 4.5, or now they just came out with 4.6. And like those are the ones that are really to the point where you could think, oh, this thing is kind of like AGI, like it really seems to know what it's doing. But you need that really advanced LLM, which means you can't really run those locally very easily because they're massive. And most consumer hardware wouldn't be able to do those types of things. And so most people are using those cloud agents, and that has a couple of impacts. Number one, like I said, it can be really expensive. If you wake it up every 15 minutes, which I think it might even be the default suggestion that they give you, it can eat up all the tokens of whatever subscription you have pretty quickly. And if you tell it to use an API, that means it's going to keep using tokens, and it's going to rack up a huge bill, and
Well,
it's
the
going to
good
get
news
really
is,
expensive.
remember, all adult male teenagers all make wise decisions. So I'm sure it's all going to
Exactly. So we don't have to worry about any of this. But I think it is a dangerous thing, and I think a lot of people are probably just doing it for fun, and they don't even necessarily have some, serious purpose behind it. I do think the idea has potential, but I think, my advice, if anyone is interested in doing this, is take it really slow, be very careful, and maybe have someone who really understands IT security set it up for you, um, and tell you what you shouldn't do with it, because it is something that could get you into a lot of trouble. And the more autonomy you give it, and the more information about yourself that you give it, the more risk you're taking.
I just want to say, who else in the chat heard Raspberry Pi, perked up for like 2 seconds, and then drained out again? I was like, Raspberry Pi? And then I was like, oh, womp, 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 womp.
A Raspberry Pi, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a really small, really cheap
Yeah.
computer. But it's like literally like the size of a tin of Altoids, to use an example, because I think Sergio likes his Altoids. It's like that size. It's like, the size of a pack of cards. And
Wow.
it is pretty functional. Like you can run Linux on it, you can run a basic operating system with some basic applications, and it works pretty well. And if you're just browsing the web or something, it can work for that too. But it's yeah. So it's a nice sort of hobbyist thing that if you have something that doesn't require this like massively powered CPU, it's a good computer for that.
Excellent. All right.
So anyway, I know that some of this stuff I often veer off into the technical without even knowing I'm doing it.
You can
But
get a lot more of this kind of talk, you guys, tomorrow on Spaces. If you love this technical talk, Owen could do it forever. Like, I don't know what he's saying, but I think it's interesting.
well, along the same lines, there's Machina Labs that raised $124 million to launch a large-scale intelligent U.S. factory. So they're apparently in more of the defense space. So it's aerospace, defense, auto, complex metal structures. But they're basically building this kind of automated factory that I'm guessing means it won't require very many people. But it looks like it would be highly robotic, and maybe be a way that we could scale up our U.S. manufacturing a lot faster than otherwise. So we're in the age of robots now. I don't know that
Does
Mhm.
it
there's any going back.
does the story say where the factory is going to be built?
I don't remember seeing that. I know that it does say they're in the sort of aerospace and defense space, and that they have contracts with the Air Force. But it's dual use with, like, it can make Toyota auto panels apparently, and so I'd have to look at the article to see if it said anything about where it was going to build it. But I know that they raised a bunch of money to build it, but I'm not sure if they've picked a site yet.
Okay.
All right. Well, we can get more into the politics. So we have a whole bunch of stuff going on with immigration, of course. Um, Trump apparently went on the tear talking about Don Lemon, making fun of him for using a free speech defense, and saying how horrible it was to experience or even see the church being stormed by a bunch of people. He made some statements at a prayer breakfast about it, I think, and I think he also made some news on that just by saying we're going to rededicate the country to spirituality or something along those lines. I can't remember. Maybe one of you remember exactly what he said, but it was kind of like a religious rededication of the country. And then at the same time, we have, of course, the Democrats coming out against all this stuff and saying they need to reform DHS and put a bunch of guardrails around ICE. And the interesting part of that is that buried in there, they want to make sure that ICE cannot operate at polling stations for voting.
Right. Right.
Um, and there was a
Sergio, what were
list
you
of,
going
like,
to say? Yeah, Sergio had his hand up. What were you going to say?
oh, go
Oh
ahead,
yeah.
Sergio.
Oh, I think that yeah. When Owen mentioned that about the religious breakfast that Trump had yesterday.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So since 2017, that was the last time anybody lied to me about anything that Trump said. Right? I started watching every single speech, every single everything. So yesterday I watched that too, and it was an amazing breakfast that he had with the Congress delegation from the Democrats and the Republicans, and it was he announced that there's going to be a rededication of America's a rededication of America of the 250th on May 17, I think. And so that's going to be a big event to again celebrate America for the principles that it was started. And that's why I want to invite BJ to unite as a one big country.
All
Unite
right.
us. We're
I'm
gonna be invincible,
I'm
and
the
we're gonna
omnipotent
be
ruler of Canada. I have declared us part of the United States. It's
and
done.
we're gonna be
Declare
richer
it,
than your
BJ.
wildest dreams. I'm telling you, we're gonna be amazing. Greenland, Alaska, we got Venezuela too. It's gonna be beautiful.
It's so
So
amazing
that's it.
people can't even believe it.
Venezuela.
Yeah.
Sergio just throws in Venezuela. He's like, "And Venezuela, come on down."
I am interested,
Have you seen
BJ,
the
in, like,
Venezuelans?
Have you
like
seen that?
They're beautiful.
I am
Beautiful.
interested, BJ, like, what's going on with immigration in Canada? Because I haven't heard anything about that in a long time.
No. Well, I can give the intersection between immigration fraud, the Somali community, and truckers who shouldn't have licensing, if you want the very short version of it. And this is something that's been it's been a problem in Canada for some time. So essentially, what's happened in Canada, like you have, we jokingly call them the Somali pirates. Those are the people who have committed $18 billion of fraud, which in the state of Minnesota, which is greater than the entire GDP of Somalia. And that is amazing. I mean, I am in awe of their skill set. But in Canada, we do things a little different. We allow those Somali pirates to come into Canada, and then we make them the immigration minister. That's right. That's what we did. And in our particular case, there's something that every member of parliament, our RCMP, our National Police Force, has been completely aware of, which is the fact that they're running this immigration fraud scheme that is human trafficking. So those truckers that you're seeing that are Sikh, they're actually Khalistani. Khalistani is a terrorist movement that came out of Canada. It's a separatist movement from India. So they are trafficked from the Punjab region into Canada under human rights legislation, minister's permit from the Minister of Immigration. He's now shifted to another portfolio, but there's another stooge in there that's continuing the same thing. And it is tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud. And it includes cabinet members. So in our case, it's not like the local community and the NGO. In our case, it's the actual government representatives that are involved in it. And it's through a network of cutouts and shell companies around the world. And what's frustrating is every member of parliament knows it. All of law enforcement knows it. Nobody will do anything about it. Why? Because Canada is a Dilbert cartoon. But I can go into detail. I'm going to write about this sometime soon in Zero Hedge and lay it out over a series of articles because I've been working with some lawyers who are aware of how this all fits together. But yeah, that's the state of Canada.
That's awful. I don't understand. It's like this whole Somalia explosion of fraud that we're showing. I don't understand a lot of this, that I guess I feel like my angle is always I'm so shocked that people are just willing to sell out their countries and turn a blind eye. And is it for money and power? I mean, do they not want the existence of their countries in the future? Like they think, oh, I'll be dead by then. I don't know. I don't understand.
Well,
What's
it's
the
simple.
point of it all?
It's brainwashing. We are a postmodern state, and that's why understanding postmodern philosophy is so important. And an example of that right in the clear where everybody could see it was the past 10 years where Prime Minister Blackface Trudeau, this guy, was in charge of the country, and he spent 10 years saying that Canada is a racist colonial project. It is a post-national state with no cultural identity. Well, eventually, when these land acknowledgements I make fun of on my streams, it's because land acknowledgements are in government. They are in our schools, our elementary schools. They're beginning the morning announcements with land acknowledgements. They're in our sporting events. So they've brainwashed a segment of the population to believe that Canada doesn't have an identity. So Trump says, okay, join America. We have an identity. No, we're Canadian first. It's just funny how quickly they can flip back and forth. But we have some very serious philosophical problems as well as cultural problems here.
Yeah, you do. We do too. Obviously, like I just said the other day, all of this like illegal immigration and the wokeism and the corrupt media, the corrupt politicians, as Scott would say, it's like, well, if there's a slow moving disaster, you have time to correct it and get ahead of it. But I feel like the tip of the ship is hitting the iceberg now. And you know how long it takes to slow down a ship, right? So I don't know. I don't see it slowing down fast enough. And I don't want to be pessimistic. I really don't, because I'd much rather live with optimism instead of the fear that I feel. So I just don't. I need Scott to get me out of my worry of that.
Before Owen, can I just give you a positive frame before Owen continues? And the reality is the topics that I got intimately involved in when I was involved in politics, which is, political entryism from foreigners, foreign terrorist organizations, CCP, all that sort of stuff. 10 years ago, nobody wanted to hear about it. No parliamentarians, nobody in law, everybody knew, but everybody wanted to do this. Now, the general public, even people on the liberal side, are starting to ask questions and they want to have those conversations. I could only dream of us being in the position we're in right now 10 years ago. So I think we're on the right trajectory. But like you said, changes culturally and in government is like doing a U-turn with a battleship. It's slow and laborious by design, because that protects us from being a schizophrenic society. So it's going to take time. But I'm quite positive. Sorry, Owen. Go ahead, brother.
No, it's fine. Part of my question, and I don't know if you know the answer, is just like my perception is that most of the illegal immigration coming to the United States was coming up through Mexico. I know there was some coming the other way from Canada, but primarily it was a route through Mexico. And I was interested in knowing, like, now that we have really cracked down on it, and it seems like we pretty much put a stop to it, and also we've had millions of people leave. I'm kind of wondering, like, did a lot of those people go to Canada? And do you have any statistics about, like, what that looks like in terms of how much, did you absorb a lot of those people up there?
Don't have any statistics, but yes, a tremendous number of them are coming across. There, there's famously Roxham Road, the border crossing, where people are illegally crossing into Canada, into Quebec, and our National Police Force is carrying their bags for them and helping them come, because they're told to stand down and just help those people. One of the things that's come up here is you have the Carney government that's trying to play both sides, as all politicians do, and saying, well, we're ramping up the deportation of illegals. And I know some people in CBSA, which is our equivalent of, which is our border enforcement and law enforcement. And what they're telling me is, yeah, we're deporting people who are from Latin America, from Eastern Europe, from parts of Africa, but not, and this is going to be a painted word, not if they're part of the extremist Muslim community. If they have ties to any of the extremist Islamist NGOs and networks of mosques, they're not being deported. So we're keeping the garbage and we're letting good people go. We're forcing good people to leave.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really, so Canada is about, how many years of this can Canada take?
I don't know, but there's a reason I've given a few speeches in the US on laying out why Canada has become a national security threat to the United States. And, thankfully, a number of the people who've attended, some of them live at Mar-a-Lago, and many of them are within the network of the Trump administration. So that information's been able to filter there, not just from me, from other people as well, who know this file. But yeah, we are and this is why Trump is looked at Venezuela. I think Cuba is going to be next. And now, once a deal is signed with the Greenland and they start setting up some bases, you don't think that big landmass in between Alaska and Greenland is going to somehow be absorbed by the United States? When the last point on this, and I'll shut up. When I was very much involved during my campaign, all of our politicians were very worried in the Conservative Party that Russia was regularly surfacing its nuclear submarines in Canadian waters. And Trump actually referenced this recently. And we don't have the resources to patrol this massive network of waters in the Arctic. And therefore, it was just a signal from Russia to America, yeah, we can fire nukes at you at any moment. And that's why Trump said to both Denmark and Canada, you've been told for 20 years to secure the Arctic, and neither of you have done it. That's why we're going to do it. And he's going to crush our economy until Canada submits and says, okay, let's do a deal. Instead of our idiot politicians, the Dilbert politicians, who could realize, okay, you know what, let's do a deal now. Let's figure out something that works for both of us. No. They want to kill the economy first. And then when they have absolutely zero negotiating leverage, then they're going to negotiate with Trump. It's just foolish all over.
BJ, Montreal Galaxy, one of our local subscribers, a Canadian. We have a great Canadian group over here. She said, please ask BJ what he thinks of former PM Harper's recent remarks and that he's been advising Carney.
Well, this is, remember we talked about last time, the Uniparty in Canada? Again, the Dilbert filter. Our political class, our lobby class, and, all the fixers and NGOs that work within this swamp and this network, they are not incentivized to have any sort of alignment with the United States. Their incentive is to remain as confrontational with the United States as possible, because that's where the money moves. This is how the lobby industry works. So I'm not surprised. I'm not socially conservative at all, but I have many supporters and friends who are socially conservative. And they've been telling me for many, many years, Harper is just a liberal in a conservative suit. And I'm like, I don't know, whatever. Well, when you see the CBC is doing a fluff piece on Harper's comments attacking Trump, well, there you go. That's how you end up with a conservative party where the deputy leader used to work recently for the firm founded by Justin Trudeau's chief of staff. It is just one You know, they say it's one big club and you're not in it. Now, Canada's a one very small club. And it's more like the oligarchy. You know, Scott always made fun of it, but the oligarch structure in Russia, that's very similar to how Canada is governed. And there's complete control over all the political parties as just one entity. It's completely fake. It's completely fake.
All right. Well,
Mm.
one more story I'll cover on immigration. You may have seen this guy that called himself an Antifa general, and he was telling everybody to join an armed uprising against ICE. This dork is named Kyle Wagner. He's been arrested in a pre-dawn raid in Minneapolis, and there's a nice video of it. You can find it on my feed. There's a story by Cassandra McDonald of the Gateway Pundit who was covering this, and so this guy was like doxing ICE supporters and calling ICE Gestapo and mass murderers, and he was soliciting donations for this. And so they did a pre-dawn raid and videotaped it, and he's been arrested now. So he was threatening to kill ICE agents, and so I'm sure he's going to face justice. So there's some good
Oh
news.
yeah. That was good. Thanks, Owen. I love that. The guy's so vicious and he's just getting everybody all stirred up and get your guns and you're just like, oh my God, this is not a video game. It's just insanity. And I'm so sick of these Democrats. Like it's just the party of violence, murder, breaking laws, making up your own rules, the roadblocks that they're putting in the middle of the street and deciding who can pass. It's a miracle that the bullets aren't flying, thank God, but that it's not from people that are just law-abiding citizens who are going to snap, because it's enough of a pressure cooker.
Yeah, and I would just, generalize this a bit. Like I use this as an example, but like justice is happening. It may not happen as fast as you want. You might not be seeing Tim Waltz in prison yet. I don't even know if he'll be arrested, but like there are a lot of people being arrested and charged with crimes. And the administration is taking it seriously and they are taking action. And I think the perception on X and other social media might be, oh, they're not doing anything about it. Why is nobody ever arrested? And I see these statements like people who come away with this impression of nothing's happening and we're not arresting anybody. And there was even a James O'Keefe video about some FBI guy that was claiming nobody was going to get arrested. But I think there's been over 100 people in Minneapolis arrested for the fraud. There were just some people arrested in California for the hospice fraud. There have been lots of people arrested at these riots, and this guy now has been arrested too. And like I think there was somebody who, showed up at some politician's house. They just got arrested. Like there are people that are having criminal charges because of these things, and so it is being taken seriously. The people are being brought to justice. Yes, maybe some of them will get a liberal judge and they'll get off. I mean, you can't
Well, that's
expect
the thing.
everything's always going to go your way, but I do think that the administration is taking action on this and they are taking it seriously. So I just want to make sure you don't get so wrapped up in this rhetoric of nothing ever happens that you don't see things when they do happen.
I
You know?
am wrapped up in it. I'm like Nikki over here on local saying it's people, not politicians, body, not the head. And that's how I feel. The fish rots from the head down. And until the politicians really have serious ramifications for the chaos and the violence that they're creating, because they are, I don't see it stopping. And if the liberal
Yeah.
judges aren't held to account, what's the point? I
Well, I,
know.
I do I do think it's great that they did arrest Don Lemon because I think that's an example where it was a very, celebrity type person that you might have thought would have some kind of immunity or he could claim he was press and he'd get away with it. And he didn't, He again, we don't know what's going to happen in court. He might have some kind of First Amendment argument, but I don't think he really does because I think there is enough evidence of what he did that he was coordinating with these people and it was private property and it was also breaking these specific laws that were put in place by Democrats, frankly. And so I think he's going to have to face those charges. But I think, you know, what I keep in mind is that for someone like Tim Waltz, for example, it's like making statements or like Maxine Waters, making statements that are inflammatory is kind of a borderline thing. It's like it's free speech. politicians actually have like this speech and debate clause that gives them even more immunity, where they're allowed to lie to us with
Get
no
rid of it.
consequences. And so there is this extra leniency that they have built in for them, which I hate, but it's just that's the reality. And so, and then, as far as connecting Tim Waltz to the fraud, like to me, that just takes time. Like you have to show how was he involved? What did he know? When did he know it? What kind of documentation do we have to prove it? And that takes time to put together a case. So I wouldn't expect something like that to happen overnight.
Well, the locals chat is also saying, arrests versus convictions. We need convictions. The arrests are
Oh,
just, BS.
I'm with you, but again, we don't control all these things. Like the Trump administration can arrest people, Cash can go arrest people, but you know, and the Department of Justice can prosecute it. But we do have to deal with just who's in the judicial system today, and you're not always going to get the result you want. And it also depends on who ends up on the juries. And so I think we can work towards that as much as we can. And if you get selected for jury duty, absolutely go, and maybe you'll end up on one of these juries where you can make a difference. But
Yes.
other than that, I don't. I think we just have to wait and see what happens. But I would also point out that the process is the punishment a lot of the time. That going through a trial like this, I mean, just think back to when Kyle Rittenhouse was put on trial, right? That never should have happened, and he ended up innocent. But that doesn't mean there were no consequences to him. His whole life was ruined by that, and it
Oh,
cost
yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars, just to defend himself. And all these other people are going through that same process right now. That if they have to hire a high-priced lawyer, they have to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and
Hmm.
if they don't, they're going to end up with a public defender that is not very good. And
Hmm.
so, they are facing serious consequences, even if they do end up getting some liberal judge and getting a light sentence or getting off. And they're probably always going to be tarnished with these things, having a criminal record. So I wouldn't think that there's no consequences just in case, in the cases where there aren't convictions. So, the process really is the punishment. And, there may be another punishment after that. And I hope there is for a lot of these people because I think they deserve it. But I do think that there are things happening to these people that are not things they want to happen to them. And, we should recognize that progress is being made. That's my main point.
Okay, I'm gonna work on recognizing that.
All right. Now we can go over to the Epstein files and have some fun with Bill Gates, because apparently he had an email with Epstein where they decided to talk about getting rid of poor people.
I knew
Um,
it. I knew that was the plan.
I,
But he's saving the world. I don't get it. Go on.
yeah, I mean, maybe it was just a poor choice of words,
Mhm.
but that's pretty much what they said word for word is, how do we get rid of poor people as a group?
Mm.
And
Could he
I don't think
have
they had much more context in the email around what that was about. They just said that we
could
want to
he
talk about
have
how to get rid
meant
of poor people.
he wanted to end poverty?
I think so, and I would definitely, have some benefit of the doubt in there somewhere. Although I kind of have, less benefit of the doubt with Bill Gates than I used to. But yeah, I mean, certainly that's a potential interpretation of it, and there isn't anything explicit in there about killing them or anything like that. But it does say, hey, I wanted to talk to you about how to get rid of poor people as a group. Um, So I think Bill Gates is certainly trying to say, "Oh, it's not what you think, and this isn't what it looks like." But that's the problem to me, is that that's what it looks like.
Yeah, it
You know?
does. It
And I
does.
think that's the problem with a lot of the Epstein files, is it's just painting people in a very bad light. Maybe many of them are not deserved, but a lot of them probably are. And people are starting to face consequences. The interesting thing to me is a lot more of the consequences are hitting in the UK. I keep seeing story after story that somebody's getting fired or somebody's being removed from office, or that there's a lot of things happening in the UK as a result of showing up in the Epstein files. And I haven't seen much of that in the US so far, but I've seen a lot of it in the UK, and I'm not really sure why it's different over there.
Did you
I think
guys like my joke that I said maybe COVID was invented so Bill Gates could get antibiotics injected into his wife.
Whoa.
You
Allegedly.
never know.
Allegedly.
Oh, thank you, Marcela. You guys, if you don't know Marcela, she's an attorney, so she's always here to remind us to say allegedly. It's just a joke, or is it?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
also because the epicenter of all this stuff came out of the United States, and there's, like, you can see there's so much crossover, like all parties are affected, and people, I think, are starting to see the gears behind the machine, that there are a lot of people who are donors who are essentially political mercenaries, and they operate almost like hired guns, which is not so much the case in the UK, I think, but also look who's in power in the UK. The SJW left is in power, whereas in the United States, that's not really the case, at least on the federal level. I think that might play into it. There's a whole bunch more we could talk, but I think that could be like an hour-long speculation as to the motives and the reasons, because I think it's quite complex.
Yeah. So I know this one got you guys a little riled up, so I apologize if I'm riling you up again, but apparently there's been a hit put out on Nick Shirley. It looks like he was letting us know essentially that, that he's had some kind of death threats, and um, that it looks like he's saying he was the number one man it targeted. His security team had to switch hotels and um, protect him
Shouldn't have done
essentially from
that.
some of these things. Um, and it says like he's been getting photos of bodies in ditches with captions like "that's going to be you" and telling him to go kill himself. And so it looks like has some real fear that he's being targeted, and it is really outrageous. I mean, all Nick Shirley did was expose fraud, right? Like, what possible motive would someone have to go after someone like that? Unless they were part of the fraud, I guess. And that may be
Mm-hmm.
what it is. But all he's doing is saying, "Hey, this is not right. This is fraud. This is somebody stealing money," and he brought attention to it.
He's
But
very close to unraveling something big, obviously.
Well, I also think also Owen, imagine, and I'll ask Marcela and Sergio, you guys might have a better understanding of this. What happens in Latin America when you expose, I don't know, fraud, people stealing money from the government, laundering, cartel activity? What happens to you in the third world when that happens? And unfortunately, that's what we've brought into the Western world. And that doesn't change the behavior of people who operate like organized crime and thugs.
If you
Marcel.
do that in Latin America, you're killed
Yeah.
immediately. I mean, this happens all the time. Journalists in Mexico, they want to talk about corruption, they're immediately killed. I'm surprised it doesn't happen here more often. But I'm glad it doesn't happen. But yeah, you Nick reminds me of Charlie. And I think that's also sad that he has to go through that. And I hope that nothing happens to him. But I want to see what Sergio thinks.
Well, and thank you, Marcela, and thank you, BJ. In Mexico and all those places, it's a little more nuanced. It's not about just reporters, waking up one day and say like, you know what, I'm gonna fight the government today. It's not like that. It's always conflicting interest. There's always these groups that are backing different journalists, and there's always you have to follow that always, and not just be blinded by like, oh, look at this guy, he's so, look at him, he looks so young and so optimistic, and just I'm not saying that we have to be a skeptic 100% of Nick Shirley or anything, but we have to be skeptic of everybody, all the journalists always, right? So that's one thing. And second is in a, there's going to be a time where dictators will make some decisions that are not going to be very popular too, right? So there's a right now the Washington Post, for example, right, is they just laid off 2/3 or 1/3 of their employees. A bunch of them. It was a bloodbath, right? and that was created of their own. They made that happen, right? They were lying to us all this time, and now we don't care about them. They're irrelevant, and they're killing themselves. So they don't have to be just killed by the government or by for saying the truth. They also get killed by saying lies too. So that's what I wanted to say.
And it's also politicians. Like, remember in Colombia, Uribe was favored to win the next election in May, and he was assassinated. And he was assassinated by ELN, who is connected to the current president, Petro. So things can get really messy there, and it's really concerning to see that sort of behavior just starting in the Western. We see a lot of it in Canada, but you're starting to see that in the United States as well.
Bukele is a great example of sorry, Marcela, because I love your
you love my
president.
country.
I love your country so
The
much. You have
US.
no idea. I want to check it out.
I just wanted to say that I personally know the feeling of this because my dad was assassinated in El Salvador for speaking out, for being a politician that believed in rights and honesty. So that's the reason why I'm here in America, because that's what happened to my family. So I know very, very well that if you're an enemy, you're going to get charlied. And that's what they want. They want to take out Nick. They don't have any arguments against Nick, so they'd rather just take him out. That's the key. They hoax, they fake, and they kill.
Well, on that positive note,
Holy shit.
yeah.
Wow.
There's something I wanted before you guys end. I know you have one or two more things. I just wanted to touch on something from yesterday because I think it's relevant to the AI topic that you brought up before, Owen, and the conversation you guys have been having for the past week and struggling with this Scott Adams AI fakes. And I think we all understand, Scott made it very clear he was very concerned about intellectual property, as we saw with his books that were copied and the Dilbert calendar fake books and all that. He took that very seriously. And I think what I'm calling SaaS, not software as a service, but the Scott Adams School, there's a simulation alert for you. I think maybe you guys have an opportunity in the AI space. And what I think maybe, because you have a big community and everybody wants to contribute. You have great people. You have lawyers, engineers, people are professionals from all walks of life. I think there is a window of opportunity to solve a problem that you have stumbled across, which is posthumous AI clones and the potential for having legislation that marks those as violations of intellectual copyright. I would maybe you call it the Scott Adams law. I think there's so much because you guys are connected with so many people because of Scott, people in the administration, outside the administration, on both sides of the aisle. I think maybe there's something there. You can reach out to your audience to see what people think if they're willing to help. Maybe you can shop it around to the lobby firms for interest, because that's how it works, by the way. And find somebody in GR and government relations, because it operates like a Dilbert cartoon as well. I'm sure Greg Gutfeld, Joel, they have enough insight into DC, how it operates. And this could be a bipartisan effort to protect all of you when you pass on from people creating AI clones. So I think you've all, Scott, and all of you have stumbled across a massive opportunity that you can capitalize to be useful and make the world a better place. And it's in the AI space, which is very relevant today and is relevant to all of us.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. You guys, any closing thoughts? We're just coming up on the time. Yeah, Sergio.
Thank you, teacher. Or Sergio. Can I go first?
Yes, you can.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to remind everybody the calendar, I believe, is back for sale for the Dilbert calendar 2026 on Amazon. So we'll put the link in the comments for you.
And this will be the last calendar, I believe. There may be some historical ones. I don't know what the estate's going to do about that, but there won't be any more coming with any new ones. So this is the last Dilbert calendar. So
on Amazon,
it'll be a collectible.
Yes.
Oh,
Sergio.
that's true. That is true.
Oh yeah, I want to say, BJ, that was amazing. I love
Yeah.
that idea of
Ooh.
hey Shelly, the
We
calendar.
have a model with a calendar.
Yeah. So I love BJ's idea of taking advantage of this and something useful with it. I love that, and I love your take on Canada being on the Dilbert cartoon. Right, that should be like the number one rule. Right, all countries should try to avoid being being Elbonia. Right, so you're like Elbonia of and that, I love that. So thank you very much again, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
My pleasure. And you compare that with all these meetups where you're getting all these people together. Maybe it could be a collective community initiative to lobby the government to not only protect Scott's legacy in the future, but all of yours. And I don't know anybody, Democrat, Republican, whatever, who would be against that because it serves all of their interests.
That's
So
true.
good.
Very good point.
Yeah.
BJ, thank you so much. You guys, the good news is that BJ said that he will come on anytime we want. So you can look forward to a lot more of these kinds of interesting conversations with our friend BJ and the group. Shelly, did you want to say anything in closing?
Yes, I wanted to talk about the calendar. Yes, we did. There was a demand, so we did print more of these. There's still a limited amount. So if you haven't got the calendar, or if anybody wants to get the calendar, please do that. We are in the works for one more calendar after this. So we are
Wow.
working on that because Scott saved like a whole year's of I believe it's the newest. Don't quote me, but I do need to figure all that out. But he did save some for one more calendar.
Wow.
So we do have one more coming. We're working on that. Just wanted to let you know that. And then also, Erica, not sure if you have a little bit of time or anybody wants to hang on, but I was going to hang on a little bit and try to just go to locals after this so we can chat with the locals a little bit longer. So if anybody's open, they're more than welcome to stay.
Awesome. Let's give it a shot. So we'll say goodbye to YouTube and X and Rumble, and hopefully this will work and we'll see the beloveds. And why don't we all do a closing sip to Scott?
I would just throw in, I am going to be doing the after party spaces tomorrow.
Oh,
Have the
yes.
Scott
Let's not
Adams
forget
over
that.
the weekend, but I will be there. So we can talk for hours about the news on Saturdays time, but it's on X. So look for that post from me. I'll probably do another one on Sunday for a little while as well, but on Saturday it's open. We'll go as long as we need to.
It's a good party, you guys. You should get there. All
Thank
right.
you.
To Scott, you guys.
Scott.
Don't be a chooch.
Scott.
That's what we call blackface Trudeau, a chooch.
Oh my God, I love that. That's what my dad called our old neighbor, but he wasn't black.
Yeah, exactly.